suffering be dispelled. Let all pain, suffering be dispelled. Hello everybody, it's very lovely to be here with you. This is the equinox that we're at. Now that's not just some sort of fanciful New Age conceit. The equinox is an actuality. It's to do with the shifting of the gravitational pull between us and our source of light and power and life, the sun, where we kind of in our tilt, as the planet's tilting in its orbit around the sun, you know, so that you've got in the summer months in the northern hemisphere, the northern part of the planet is tilting forwards towards the sun, which is why we get more sunlight, etc. And then in the winter months in the northern hemisphere, we tilt away from it, and the southern hemisphere obviously does the opposite. And when we're kind of equipoised, which is what the equinox is all about, we're pretty straight, and that exerts a certain different level of gravitational pull, and this affects the magnetosphere of the Earth, and that affects DMT production in the brain, dimethyltryptamine, which is what gives us the altered states that we enjoy in life. And the equinox, I've always noticed that the equinoxes are very powerful. It's like you get to the top of the hill, and then you can get the view. Leading up to the equinox is generally a time of a lack of clarity, and hard to see where you're going. It's hard to see the view because you've got the hill in front of you. Well, you could consider that we're at the top of the hill now, and we can see out, and so there'll be more light, not more light actually, not externally anyway. In the northern hemisphere there'll be less. Southern hemisphere for all you guys in Australia, South Africa, South America, etc., New Zealand, if anybody's awake down there. Well, I know somebody must be awake, but you know, you've got the opposite. You've got more light coming in on the outside. But like, in terms of your life path, more clarity will ensue from this moment on. In fact, this satsang is intended to promote that. If you've never been to a satsang before, welcome. If you have been before, welcome. Satsang, forgive me being repetitive if you've been before, is an old Sanskrit word meaning us all sitting together in truth, in authenticity, you know, without pretending to be happy, without pretending to be cool, without pretending to be perfect, and all the other nonsense everyone's pretending to be all the time. This is just us in our naked truth being together, and why we do it is because when we divest ourselves of the disguises that we're habituated to donning in everyday life, a variety of disguises of course, you know, it's a bit different situations. When we divest ourselves of these, we reveal the soul, and when souls unite, something occurs that is impossible to actually put into words. It's as if I see it when I do live events, the air shimmers differently, the quality of light alters. And of course I'm reporting subjectively, but this is something that's told me by participants as well, so it's not just me imagining it. And with what we're doing here, we have the privilege of not having to use our physicality to engage each other. We're able to, through the virtue of technology, to be together without having to engage physically. and it's a really pure form of meeting. What happens is that the presence, the background presence, if you like, the Tao, the God, whatever you want to call it, informing each of us, informing all manifest reality, seems to be aware that a number of its constituent parts have formed into some sort of coalescence with benign intent, and that seems to elicit what I call a smile from the Tao. That's like a little quantum shunt for everyone present to instigate a new flow of serendipity. That's my intention. And with this sequence, the blue lotus sequence, in which we'll be channeling the blue light, I'll explain that in a minute, the focus is on internal qualities, is on amplifying certain states internally, which will then in turn have an effect, a benign effect, on the external. It's important to note that the entire experience of what we're perceiving as external reality actually goes on within. So what we perceive as external reality is actually a construct in the mind. It's a series of descriptions that we've created ourselves, often mostly influenced by our parents and teachers and society. We experience the flow of events going on around us through a filter in the front of the brain comprised of our complex of descriptions. And this is upheld by a conversation that we engage in with ourselves, the so-called internal dialogue, in which we evaluate, well, we come up usually with preferences about which aspects of the complex of descriptions we're treating as reality we prefer over others, and we have desires for certain things to be increased and others to be decreased, and then we evaluate how we're doing in relation to that. Then you have to bear in mind that what we ourselves doing, this thing that how are we doing, how am I doing in relation to the perception of the external world, this I is also a construct, this conglomeration of habits, of thought habits and memories and physical behavioral patterns and identification with various external objects like houses, jobs, cars, people and so on and so forth. Is also entirely a construct, and you could therefore say that this self that is being, whose progress or otherwise is being evaluated in the mind, is really fictional. And please understand that anything I say is not intended to be taken as absolute truth. I'm not being didactic. I'm offering an existential experimental stat from which, if which taken, will provide a certain set of results. It will shift the experience of being. And so in other words, listen, but decide for yourself. The information that whatever I say, is you could treat as an artist's interpretation of an ancient system of Taoism, so-called. The Taoism is an English word for a way of being which appears to be a system. In fact, it's not really a system. It's a cosmology, whence comes a philosophy, in a practical philosophy, addressing how to transact with your fellows and with the environment in the most harmonious, energy-saving, sustainable, and productive and benign way, not just for yourself, but for all those around you. How to tread lightly on the earth while you're here, and to derive from doing so the very best value in every experience, and also to be able to give the very best value in every situation that you find yourself in. The methods used are many. The more famous or well-known of them are the Tai Chi and the Qigong, acupuncture, Feng Shui, and so on. But the essence of it all depends on a certain set of very simple, profound principles. And these all really come under the heading of being referenced to your body as your arena of experience, as opposed to being referenced to this internal dialogue and the descriptions of reality. I'll kind of unpack all that as I go along. The blue lotus bit is my little, using poetic license, my little oriental twist on the blue light. Now the blue light is flashlight blue coloured light, and it's the light that you'll see when you look at the star Sirius in the night sky in the northern hemisphere in the southeastern sky, starting at this time of year, pretty late, 2-3 in the morning type thing. That it's at if you follow Orion's belt, the 3 stars forming a diagonal line in the midst of an apparent rectangle in the constellation of the Dog, and you follow that dotted line down, as it were, towards the horizon, just slightly off kilter from that line, you'll see a very bright blue star, which is Sirius A. Sirius A is orbited, there's an elliptic orbit of Sirius B around it, which is a dark star. And this binary star is one of the closest stars to our Sun. It's 8.6 light years away, and it has a measurable gravitational pull on our solar system and all who sail in it. The ancient Egyptians used to, the exoteric, at the sort of like the mass level, worship this star as Isis, and the dark star Sirius B is Osiris. At the esoteric level, in the sort of the initiate level, it wasn't that it was worshipped; it was that it was recognised that there was telepathic communication between us here and them there, whoever they are, presumably on some planet moving around that star system, on a series of planets for all we know. And the general feeling of that was that it's an advanced civilization, way advanced of ours, and has some sort of benign intention towards us. It seems to require us to do well here. What I think might be subjective on my part saying that, but that's the general impression that it seems to leave. This then was carried on and is carried on at the highest level of the Masons, the Freemasons. Their big secret at the very top is apparently that they have telepathic communication. Serious. I was living in New Mexico from 1979 to 83. And when I'd reached a certain stage in my training in Taoist meditation, I started spontaneously being aware of a blue light being, a being made of blue light. It had the sort of the shape of a person with a much more elongated head. No clearly definable features, but it was made of blue light. And it was speaking to me. It was giving me messages. And these were pertinent and powerful and turned out to be very useful as time unfolded subsequently. This continued and has continued to varying degrees throughout since that time. At the time a book fell into my hands, which was Robert Anton Wilson's Cosmic Trigger. And it actually did do that cliche thing of falling into my hands and opening up the page where he's talking about how, strangely, over the last few years, this is since the mid-70s, many people have been reporting spontaneous telepathic transmissions from blue light beings on Sirius. I didn't know about the Sirius bit. I just got the blue light being. So then that tuned me in, and then I started looking at the star, and it did have and still does have an extraordinary resonance for me. The first time I ever see it come up in the sky which I had the privilege to do at the Balearics last week, or this week actually, early in the morning, at 3 in the morning or whatever. It gives me a thrill. That's quite unusual. But then I discovered, well, I went and told my teacher, and he said, well, yeah, no, the Taoists have been into that serious connection for thousands of years. They actually claim that their knowledge comes from aliens, who they describe as being 7 feet tall, which is well over 2 meters tall, comprised of blue light, and who wore strange clothes or had a strange costume on. One presumably would, we'd imagine it would be like a spacesuit or something. I'd like to think that, with all kind of horns and all that stuff, and a helmet. And they had this, or have this advanced knowledge of how the body works, just as they had the advanced knowledge of how to create pyramids and the Nazca lines in the desert of Peru. They knew how energy moved through the body and around the body and through space, and how to manipulate the energy into an optimal flow to promote health, well-being, confidence, sanity, and success. And this is what we have passed down to us today as acupuncture, Taoist energy medicine, the meditation, or what we call inner alchemy in Taoism, the Tai Chi, the Qigong, all of it is basically what's left of that which was brought here, they say, actually physically, over a couple of visits, one well before the last ice age at least, and another subsequent to it. This is also corroborated by the Dogon tribe in Timbuktu, Mali, who have petroglyphs that are 25,000 years old on their cave walls, which depict the arrival of who they call Nono, a semi-aquatic being from Sirius. It's all rather interesting. It doesn't really matter if you believe any of that stuff or not. I've experienced it myself, and it's been most profound as a healing tool. My teacher explained to me that there are many techniques. He showed me various techniques that are used to induct the blue light into the body, and it is used as a healing medium. It feels as if you're being healed by somebody, by some entity. It doesn't feel like just a one-way thing where it's just you sucking the light in. It definitely does have the sensation of having light transmitted to you. Once the light enters the body, and remember it's flashlight blue, so it's not that it's cold, but it's definitely not hot. It's quite a neutral temperature, I guess. It's very incisive. It's not a splashy kind of light. It's a light that is very direct, like a laser. And when the blue light enters the body, it starts to move in what the dancer Emily Conrad Dow used to describe as micro movement. Tiny little swirly, undulating, gyrating, dance-like motion that affects every cell. It operates on a cellular level. And as the blue light enters, it heals, it cleanses, it takes away the impurities, the dross, the blockages, and encourages the body's intelligence to retrieve its balance, retrieve the body's balance. This is actually the idea of being centered in your body so that you can appreciate what's occurring from within your body rather than from your imagination, as we want to do in our culture. This is really the main difference between Taoism and most other practices that I've ever encountered. Is this emphasis on referencing yourself in a psychospatial proprioceptive sense. Hence, you get focused, or rather you get centered by focusing your attention on your own center of gravity. So this is important because before you can effectively do any magical operation, before you can channel light or summon up angels or do whatever you do, you need to be properly centered. Otherwise, it is only happening from the imagination, and results will occur simply because the beings that you're connecting with are benign and they want to help, and that which you seek seeks you also. But for something to have profound effect, which is what I'm interested in and is what I want to promote, rather than just superficial changes, we have to conduct the operation from a deeply centered place. When I say centered, I'm talking about being collected. Being scattered, which is the opposite of being collected, and which is really the usual state. I mean, people, when you're wandering about, might not appear scattered, most of them, but that's mostly, in my experience, a pretense. People are walking around with a mask on, pretending to be collected and centered, wanting to give the appearance of being so. I'm all right, I'm cool, I've got it all sorted out. And I know from experience from talking to so many people in my work over the last 40 years or more that this is actually not how it is. Oftentimes the people who look the most collected are the most scattered. You know, it's mostly a mask with people because we're not trained to be centered. We're educated to be scattered, to think of millions of things at the same time, and to actually believe that what we're thinking about is actually what it is, as opposed to just a description that we're concocting ourselves. The thing is, being scattered is unhelpful. Yet, basically what happens when things get stressful is we get scattered, and life is stressful. I mean, there's a lot to deal with all the time. Being collected, gathered into a unified shape, as it were, is the only antidote. And then, as I say, being collected is the same as being centered. And being centered is probably primary principle of Taoism, of all Taoist practice. It's central to it, rather than the punk. And as I say, it's not just theoretical. It is something that you feel psychospatially within your body. So to get centered, you focus on your own center of gravity within, which is actually an inch or so, 2 centimeters or so below your belly button, or behind and below the belly button. The reason for that this is the center of gravity, again, is not just theoretical. If you were lying on the ground with your arms over your head and somebody needed to put a handle on you so they could lift you up, the ergonomic center is just below the navel. So if you put a handle and lift it, that would be the easiest place from which to pull you. That would be your center of gravity. And this is something I advise very strongly to develop as a practice, a constant practice. It's so easy to do these things. The challenge is it's so easy to forget to do them. Remembering is the key. And it just requires thinking about, fleetingly, but often throughout the day, until eventually it lodges itself as a sort of central to each moment's experience. The Aikido guys talk about it like this. They just say, think about the one point. That one point being what they call Tanden, in Chinese they call it the Dantian, which means the field through which heaven operates your body, the field through which the heavens, if you like, operate you. And it's just a matter of simply thinking about it as you work, rest and play. And in the fullness of time, you develop centeredness naturally. But there's far, far more to it than just that, as you'll see when we do it, amongst which is exercising the discernment to notice when your mental energy is diffused and pulled outwards into what you're assuming is the external world, but is actually your perception of it. Because as I say, all of it is really going on in the front of your head. Gathering yourself in order to de-scatter is essential for living a fully successful life. And by successful, I mean being able to authentically claim that you are enjoying and have enjoyed each and every moment to the full, whether it was a painful or pleasurable moment, that you have valued it and gained the value out of it, and no more could have been got from it or given into it than you did or had. And the material resources and the human resources, if you like, to facilitate or support rather such a a state are secondary. They're assumed. They will occur of themselves when you are enjoying yourself, basically, because this is what it comes down to. And this isn't to imply a flight into mindless, unbridled hedonism. It's more, well, it could be that, if that's what you're doing. It's more that by profoundly appreciating the gift of being here, which is the ultimate gift, beyond after which all others are secondary. Just being here, this is the ultimate prize. We've already won it. This enables the great presence, the Tao, the God, or however you wish to refer to it, that informs you to enjoy itself through you, which is presumably the reason that it's burst into manifestation as you in the first place. So you could say it's your highest function, as the Taoists do, to enjoy each and every moment. And that's what we would call success. The ability to be with that level of sensibility in order to appreciate each and every moment to the full is metaphorically akin to threading a piece of cotton through the eye of a needle. In other words, it's that refined, you know, the being centered, being hitting the target in the center of the bullseye, hitting the bullseye rather in the center of the target, is the being in the state of equipoise required, the state of grace required, the state of sensitivity required, and the state of mental order, i.e. perspective, required to fully merge with, cognitively, the great presence, the continuum of all life. And to thread a needle, as you know, through thread a needle through the eye of the needle, to thread cotton through the eye of the needle, you generally have to lick it and twist it to a point. And that's what we're doing when we talk about gathering ourselves, collecting ourselves, centering ourselves. Now, I mean, talking of gathering, life can be seen on one level at least as some huge, multi-dimensional information gathering process. Now, every moment there's loads of information coming in. It could be a snatch of a song passing by, or something somebody says, or an idea that you have that forms from various stimuli externally perceived. And the acquisitive mind wants to make something of each bit of incoming data. That's the monkey mind, grasping at things, because we're opportunists. We have to be to survive on some level. That's nature's nature. It's opportunistic, and that implies making the most of everything that comes along. A lot of what comes along isn't necessarily useful, and so discernment is required. And when we're scattered externally, the acquisitive mind acquiring whatever it can, trying to turn into something useful, we've lost our center. It's very difficult, rather impossible, to sufficiently discern the useful from the useless. What happens is this grasping for advantage at every turn extends the internal field of consciousness into an imaginary world which we perceive as being out there. We believe it's actually occurring around us, while in fact what we perceive occurring around us is merely, as I say, our description of it. What we experience of the world of being alive, no matter how external it is, occurs solely within, and specifically within the body, not just the front of the brain. Paradoxically, by reclaiming yourself, by collecting yourself, gathering yourself within your body, so that you're centering yourself, the way you then describing perceived exterior will change spontaneously. And by reflective extension, i.e. the outside mirroring the inside, and so on, the actual exterior will shift. And that is the basis of all magic, or more precisely, the art of acting alchemically upon the metaphysical, and thereby attain to a shift from the physical plane. When your mind is focused on this interior appearance of an exterior world and is absorbed in its multifarious, variegated, convoluted complexity, i.e. your mind's all over the place, you're scattered. Now, mentally scattered, you're far less likely to be able to discern, to differentiate, and then make something useful out of anything incoming. So we'll actually be missing all the opportunities that come as these disparate data packs via your subconscious. You can only evaluate clearly with perspective from a central position within you. Centrally positioned within, you're like the king or the queen of the realm sitting back in your throne. Now, you can then choose your mode, or your mood if you like, how you wish to travel through the next bit of time, and you can determine your intended outcomes to each situation as it arises. However, scattered, you're like an undisciplined army of foot soldiers running hither and thither willy-nilly. So now this blue light that we're going to call down or in from Sirius, presumably, it is not just your imagination. This is something that I'm not going to try and sell it to you. But just let's assume, shall we? Let's play it as a game, that it has a superior intelligence at the other end of it. So this is not just something we're concocting in our imaginations. We can use our imaginations to trigger it off, but once we've got it triggered, then we have to honour the possibility, at least, that what's sending this blue light is something, some kind of entity of superior intelligence and power. Who it is, it's impossible to say, other than that, in my experience, it's fully benign and nothing to be afraid of, yet something surely to respect. In any case, it doesn't matter who or what it is. You could call it ISIS if you will. It really doesn't matter. That's just kind of human romance stuff. It's just, dressing. The actual substance of the experience. It doesn't matter what you call it or what you perceive it to be. Just receive it. The way it's used is a little bit like laser microsurgery that works at the soul level and then affects all the more physical aspects, including the external world of matter beyond you, which works then symbiotically with the interior. And we'll be doing that very, very shortly, so prepare. Before we do, however, clarify your intention, the motivation for doing this practice. For example, this is an affirmation that I cobbled together from this chap called the Barefoot Doctor from his book 108 Blessings, which I've been reciting to myself a fair bit lately because I really love the feeling of it. It does seem to sum up what could be the most succinct intention, really. I wouldn't want to put ideas in your mind. This is just to suggest something if you're feeling blank there. That you're blessed with the golden touch, invincible determination, unshakable equipoise all the time. That you have all the time that you need, and all the support and all the wherewithal you need, and life, as a result, proceeds with immense elegance. So that you're blessed with the golden touch. Everything you touch will turn to gold. Everything will pay off. Everything will work. That you have invincible determination, which is required, isn't it, to wend your way through this morass of conflicting energies that we call the world. That you have unshakable equipoise, the beautiful notion that no matter how tricky things get, nor how exciting they get, you always remain equipoised. You remain utterly balanced throughout. This isn't a static state, equipoise, it's a fluid one. A little bit like standing in the middle of a child's seesaw that's rocking up and down either end. So you're feeling the motion, but you're fully centered, balanced and stable and steadfast, sturdy in the center. So you're blessed with the sensation, the excitement of the sensation, without having to experience or be toppled by the extremes of the motion. And then you have all the time that you need. Imagine that. That's a beautiful thought. Rather than feeling rushed and running to somebody else's tempo, or what you perceive as somebody else's tempo, rather than being driven by competition anxiety and so on, you have all the time you need to complete the mission, whatever that is. That you have all the support you need from those around you, and this includes all sorts of support, you know, the intimate, loving support of a partner or a lover, or a close friend, the support of a circle of friends, of family, of colleagues, acquaintances, and so on and so on and so on, and that you have all the wherewithal you need, meaning that you will have at all times all the financial resources and all other resources required to keep your show on the road. And as a result of this, life proceeds with immense elegance, which it does when we let it be. So that's my suggestion of an intention, a sort of catch-all intention. But you cut your own. Take a moment to get clear about your own intention now. What do you want from this, specifically this art of gathering and centering yourself? What would you like it to bring you? And what would you like it to give you that would enable you to help those around you through these increasingly challenging times? In other words, to ameliorate the world around you. And then if you're ready, this is the moment to close your eyes and allow yourself to be as comfortable as you possibly can within your skin. So discern where you're making rigidity happen in your body, across the shoulders and the throat and the face, belly, the chest, the pelvic area, the legs, the arms, the hands, the toes. Wherever you're creating rigidity for no reason at all, just give command to those areas of the body to let go. And feel yourself starting to soften, and with that softness become more supple. And with this new suppleness, allow your breathing to deepen. Certainly stop holding your breath and focus for a moment on the belly rising as you breathe in and then falling again as you breathe out. And let the motion be fluid and seamless and silent and smooth and silken and slow. Valuing each breath as it comes in as the elixir of life itself, bringing you the next moment of being here, valuing the ability to expel the old air, without doing which it wouldn't be possible to breathe in the new. So without letting go of clutching at the moment that went before, you can't receive the moment that's coming. Valuing the breath, in other words. Get a feeling of, with all this happening, expanding the frame, the physical frame that houses the experience. Imagine somebody lifting the crown of your head upwards to elongate your spine, and then allow your shoulders to drop and broaden. Raise your breastbone a little bit, and notice how subtly, internally, you've given yourself more space. There's more of you. Now allow the weight of the head and the chest and the energy associated with those areas to naturally drop, to sink downwards below the level of the navel, where they rightfully belong, with the weight and the energy. Get a feeling of the lower part of you being really strong and solid and full, and therefore grounded, connecting with the power of the ground. As this happens, be aware that the ground is not forever and ever beneath you. It's not inert. The ground is merely a relatively very thin covering for a nuclear-driven spaceship that we're actually on. There's much heat in there as you get around the surface of the sun, and it's extremely powerful, and it's propelling us at 66,000 miles an hour around the sun, while spinning us at 1,000 miles an hour. to prevent us all falling off. So when you sink your weight, you're actually paying homage to this imponderably huge kinetic force beneath you. Meanwhile, the upper part of the body is relatively light and free and empty. Now differentiate between the front sector of your body and the rear sector of your body. So where the seam on a dress or a shirt would come at the side of the body, you could treat that as the separating line between front and back. Everything forwards of that is rather noisy and weak and vulnerable. You have the actual physical noise of the digestion and the cardiovascular respiratory systems. You also have the emotional noise of inevitable conflict in the upper abdominal area that everyone suffers from, and the noise, the mental noise of the internal conversation I was talking about in the front of the brain. And also, because your sense organs face forwards, you are inclined to come forwards in the body to get a closer look or experience of what you're perceiving is going on in front of you. And this is the habitual position of most people in our modern culture. Being in the front, you instantly acquire the qualities of the front, the noisiness, the vulnerability, and the relative weakness. However, the back part of you, in comparison, is quiet, it's silent, strong, and relatively invulnerable. When you sit in the back of you, these are the qualities you instantaneously acquire. And all it requires now is for you to lean back inside, visualize your shoulder blades, the front of your spine, the rear pelvic bones, and allow your presence, your internal presence, to flow backwards and flow backwards until you can feel yourself leaning into those bones as if you were leaning into the back of your throne and feeling fully supported in there. You've leant all the way back inside. And if you just tilt your head lightly backwards, visualizing the skull as a cave with the floor in it, the mind, which is normally shoved up into the front of the brain there, engaged in that incessant noisy conversation, is now obliged to slide backwards until it lands at the back of the skull, where it sits and rests with its back against the rear wall of the skull. You could picture a pile of beautiful, sumptuous, brightly hued cushions, very well made ones, well stuffed ones, satin and silk, arranged thoughtfully at the back of the cave there, so that you can sit most comfortably with your back fully supported by the rear wall of the skull, and like a Buddha, a little Buddha with your face on, and like you're in the cave now looking into infinity through the mouth of the cave, with no goal, nothing to acquire, nothing to achieve, merely to sit and gaze at the wonder that is infinity. And you're breathing down below, and the presence of you is leaning comfortably into the back. So you're fully supported here at the back of the cave. And you'll notice now that the front part of you, firstly that it's quite down a little bit. It's got a little less stress, a little less busy and noisy. But also that the emotional conniptions that would normally be occurring in the belly area have now subsided. And what remains of them are no longer you. So say, for example, that you have been feeling nervous in the belly, and you might describe yourself as, I'm nervous. Now it would just be, oh, there is nervousness in the front, but it's no longer who I am. This is a huge difference. You're now in command. There is breathing occurring, and breathing is occurring in front of you. There is a heart area, a heart center, which is the doorway to your soul, in the center of the chest. And it's in the front of you. And you have a choice of keeping it relatively closed or opening it up. When opening it up, it encourages your inner beauty, the essence of who you are, to radiate freely from you all around, and simultaneously to receive the beautiful essence of everyone around you. and be fed by it. To do that, visualize the two halves of your waistline opening like a pair of sliding doors to reveal the beautiful cluster of precious jewels in the core of your chest, representative of your essence, the beautiful essence of who you are. And just allow that to radiate. Picture a rose gold coloured light flowing freely from your heart to everyone in this circle here, all the way around the world, and to everyone that everyone here knows and that you know, and everyone they know, and so on and so on, until everyone on the planet is potentially touched by your love, exponentially multiplied in its outgoing power by being joined with the love of everyone else in this circle. And simultaneously, you're availing yourself of all incoming love being sent by everyone in this circle and by everyone sending love, whether they know it or not. You're connected now, in other words, to the continuum. You're not alienated or disassociated or removed from by attaining to this transcendent state of being in the back. You're even more connected now, not through the chitter-chatter of the social media or the nonsense, the gossip and everything else, but at the soul level, the quiet level. And in this state, I'd like you to picture in the sky about 8.6 light years away, bearing in mind that light travels at 186,000 miles a second. That's what, 300,000 kilometers a second or so. However many seconds it is to make up 8.6 years, and you multiply that out, you get some idea of the distance between us, and that is relatively very close. And it's very powerful. It's a huge star, by the way, much bigger than our sun. And when you look at it, but really because of the pollution in our air, it seems to change a bit from green to red to yellow to blue. But the actual light is pure flashlight blue. And I'd like you to tune into it right now, as if it has consciousness, whether you feel it does or not. I mean, essentially everything does. Light, that we talk about being through light, you know, channeling the light, being light workers and so on. The physical manifestation of light is the star that we're closest to, or any stars that we have connection with, gravitational connection with. So that it's not actually imaginary. We know that light is the source of all life, and life is consciousness. So the light that you're tuning into now from Sirius, this flashlight blue light, is imbued with consciousness. I'm just talking about it to create the moment for us each to, in our own way, however clumsily or mildly or fully, we connect with the power that is sending that light, the consciousness. And as I say, Egyptians called it Isis, great goddess. Don't succumb to that if you don't need to, but it's the sense that there's something sending this light, and it's benign. And it is already coming in like a very powerful, unstoppable, laser-like shot into your belly button, into your navel. And as it does so, it almost feels slightly, not painful, but a bit awkward, just as it would if a laser was going through. Somewhere between hot and cold, something is definitely entering through the belly button. And the first thing that it's doing is circulating in a complex series of micro movements, because as soon as it comes in through the navel, it then diffuses without losing any intensity, amplitude, or brightness or power, and it moves all around the area behind the belly button, which you could see as a sphere the size of somewhere about the size of a well-formed grapefruit. And what it's doing at first is incisively cleansing, cutting away, if you like, all the blockages in the energy field in that area, which would have arisen from tension that came from fear, unresolved fear, and generally walking around in a state of anxiety, the physical manifestation of which we would call, in Western medicine, irritable bowel syndrome. Not that I'm suggesting that you would have that, but there's the degree of tension that's accumulated around that area behind the navel inevitably would have done so. This blue light is already cleansing that, dissolving it, slicing it away in a way that nothing in our Western armory, medical armory, could even come close to. And it's like it's cleansing it of all the dross of personality, and all the mistaken ideas, all thwarted movements, and all the inhibited desires, and all the conflict and pain and the suffering that's accumulated in that area, which is your center. So really it's symbolic of all the suffering that's accumulated throughout, is being cleansed until all you can actually see in the area, in this kind of grapefruit-sized sphere behind the navel, is a near blinding flashlight blue light, which is still coming and coming and coming from Sirius, and at the speed of light, 186,000 miles a second. Bearing in mind, not that this is important, but this light is from nearly 9 years ago. This is very, very powerful, this concept, and yet is absolutely active right now. So this is actually linking you to whatever was going on in your life 9 years ago. It's an interesting thought, but don't think about it now. Just feel the sphere as a bright ball of flashlight blue light in your lower abdominal area, becoming stronger, almost solid, and brighter and invincible. There is nothing that could now disperse this light. And it's still coming from Sirius in through the belly button. And will continue to do so after this session, even without you being aware of it. Once the flow has been instigated, it's fairly unstoppable. This in itself will add a totally new dimension to your life. Now, see yourself with this blue light and you being behind it all, with your heart open and your own love radiating in a much softer rose gold coloured light all around you, in and around you. See yourself fully gathered into the back of you, centered down in the belly behind this ball of blue light. Your mind at rest in the rear of your skull rather than busy in the front, with absolute stillness and confidence, willing and ready to accomplish everything you come here to accomplish. And this is a good time to just cast your inner eye on whatever scenario arises that symbolizes what it is you have come here to accomplish and that remains to be done. You might want to picture yourself as if seeing yourself from behind, moving around in the world, accomplishing an amazing amount, looking supremely confident and satisfied, perfectly still and calm, and radiating a love and a kindness which attracts only support from those around you rather than envy or anything destructive, looking safe and secure, and yet no longer attached to the physical, no longer caught in the material, looking enlightened, in other words, ready to go at any moment, yet ready to engage fully in each moment that arises, with an incredible air of lovingness that is so warm and magnetic that no one can resist it. And you just see yourself walking around with the golden touch, with this invincible determination, which isn't about being objectivistic and ruthless. To the contrary, the invincible determination to spread your kindness, unshakable equipoise, because you feel so beautiful, and not in a bipolar sense where you're going to then drop into the realm of ugliness as a result, but beautiful in the deepest sense, whereby you accommodate the up and the down within, and neither are who you are, simply because you're all the way back inside. With the unrushed actions of somebody who knows they have all the time in the world to accomplish everything they need to, with the air of relaxation that comes with knowing that you're fully supported by everyone around you, and that you have all the resources that you need to accomplish whatever it is you need to accomplish. And with that air of confidence, that joyfulness, that life is proceeding and continues to proceed with immense elegance. See yourself as that person and surround the image of you in a blaze of this flashlight blue light which emanates from your belly button area. See all this from that view, and now flood the scene, whatever the scene is. You don't have to see it clearly even, with this blue light as well. And let the blue light become so bright and so powerful, this flashlight blue light, that all details of the scene are overwhelmed by it, and all you actually see is the blue light. But right in the middle of the scene, right in the middle of it, the last bit you can see of yourself in that state is this tiny, tiny pinprick of brilliant gold light right in the middle of the blue, the brilliant gold light there. And know that by being this person, which you are, and will feel yourself increasingly to be in the hours and days that follow this session, you will inspire those around you to arrive at that level of their own being when they're around you. So rather than this being a selfish action, it's a self-thought action, and one that is beneficial to everyone around you. See for a moment the troubled spots on the planet and the misguided among us, the ones who are motivated by the violence, psychosis, greed, and all the rest of it, in all its forms. See the flashlight blue light being directed like lasers at them too, to cleanse them at a soul level of all that filth. And in fact, see all 7 to 10 billion people on the planet, however many it actually is right now, likewise completely cleansed by each their own stream of this laser light blue light. See yourself being cleansed, as it were, from above, this laser light blue light being sent by Sirius, and until the atmosphere of the entire planet has been cleansed. Just see that right now. Imagine that. All the filth, all the darkness cleansed. And all there is this brilliant, clean, bright flashlight blue light everywhere. And now, from our hearts, as if we're a committee of angels in a circle around the planet in the ether, inject into the mix the rose gold radiance from your own love in a motherly way. Even if you're a man, in this nurturing motherly way, surround the planet in this rose gold light, infuse that into the bright blue, and soften everything, warm it all, so that everyone on the planet feels comforted right now, like a baby by its mother. And remember that you're one of those people right now, each of us is, and allow yourself to receive the rose gold light from those angels. And then, in your own time, this will be the time to start wriggling your toes, your fingers, and your nose, and your ears, and to twitch your eyelids a bit and gradually bring yourself back into the so-called everyday state. And we've got time for only one question because I've gone over. And I want to say that next time I'll watch that I don't go so over and have more question and answer time. But as a token, I'm asking Sue to pick out just one question, and I'll answer it, and then we'll say ta-ta until next week.
Hi, Stephen. Well, I shall choose the question that came in first. How about that? And then we're being completely fair.
Yes.
And that was from David. He asks, what is your opinion of the law of attraction and how does it fit into Taoism? Thank you for these wonderful sessions.
Bless you, David. Well, you have to understand these titles that people have coined are really just a sort of modern marketing repackaging of ancient views, really, you know, understandings of how things work. And the law of attraction is just one of those. It's like mindfulness has become one of those, even to the point where I was reading in a paper just now, some idiot was saying that another way, a very good way to practice mindfulness is in meditation. It's like, what? I mean, meditation is, a basic component of meditation is mindfulness. It was never something separate from. It's an aspect of being a meditative state. And this is an example of how the professor in Oxford took mindfulness and basically packaged it as a product. And it's the same with the law of attraction. It doesn't mean it wasn't well meant. It was, I'm sure. But it's really merely a way of describing what Rumi, the Sufi mystic, said, which was that which you seek seeks you also. Now, whether we are actually manifesting it or whether we're discerning that that lies in our destiny to have and therefore perceive ourselves as manifesting it, nobody knows and will ever know. Anybody who actually says this is how it works is being arrogant, no matter who they are, because nobody knows and nobody ever will. But what we can see is that there is destiny. That can't be argued with. And what we can see is that there are moments where we feel required to rise up and say, yes, I want this. This is what I'm going to manifest. And the participation seems to be required, whether it is or not, or whether it is predestined that you would feel to do that, nobody can say. And it really, really doesn't matter. But the fact is that once you say, I want this, it's usually that at some point that thing that you want is also wanting you, and you will be drawn together in one form or another. But the point about it is that that is what you call spiritual materialism. Because if you look at all the books and the trainings, what they're all about is basically get rich, have a relationship, get stuff in the external world by doing this spiritual practice. And the people say, oh, look, we're spiritual. We got us teaching this. So everybody, oh, that's cool, they're spiritual. Let's do it. It's actually just a load of nonsense. It's just another way of collecting stuff in the external world, which gets in the way of enlightenment. What this does, what we're talking about here, is the opposite, really. It's about retracting into the core rather than being diffused and scattered in your experience of the external world, and from there creating an intention, and then allowing whatever the Tao wants to bring to create that and make it be as you saw it be, or something like that. Anyway, in other words, nobody knows, I don't know, but it's a damn good idea. Sometimes it seems to work, other times it seems to be a waste of time. There's really no point really going into it too deeply, I don't think. But I do think it's mostly a red herring, getting caught up in trying to make things happen. What we want to do is come to a state of total self-reclamation and inner peace. And from there, the magic seems to happen and we get what we need, beautiful things happen, and then the idea is not to get lost in that, just to stay centered. And that's what I wish you, that's what I wish everyone. And from this session, look out for feeling more gathered and centered and collected, and note how the world treats you as a result. And do come next week, because we're going to carry on with this beautiful process of Blue Lotus. Bless you. And that's it, and that's all. And hip hip.